This meeting is being recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cathy again, and I'm here with Lucia Catherine to talk about her books, and life in general. Welcome, Lucia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
I'm hanging in there.
I will give everybody a very brief apology for major technical difficulties with our live. It happens, so we are obviously recording this to post on the Sharing Authors Words site. I first was introduced to Lucia's books through my friend Wanda and fell in love instantly with the books. And very happy to be able to read all her books. Wanderlust, especially, I have to say, was just one of my favorite reads of the past year. It drew me in and gave me all the emotions. But we'll start a little bit with about you. What would you like to tell us about yourself?
Well, I guess every writer says this. I am definitely an introvert. So stepping out of my comfort zone to do something like this is very challenging. But I'm chill right now. I wish I had a fancy margarita, but I don't.
Margaritas make life better.
Yes, they sure do. But I'm just a mom. I have 3 boys. I have 2 puppies. I'm married to my best friend, and there's not much more to me than I love to write. I've been writing practically my whole life. I took a brief detour in my career and became a numbers gal. I was a budget analyst for the federal government for almost 18 years. And when I started to write again for pleasure, my AI editing program would say I was too formal. So I had to relearn how to write fun, not use professional words. So that was quite a challenge. It took me a long time to, can't use that word. That's too professional. I have to, fun it up a little bit and not be so professional.
That totally makes sense. My daughter was actually saying that she's in college and she's used to writing research papers, and she joined a literature class, and she's like, I have to learn to rewrite because it's not science, it's enjoyment.
Right. And it's exactly the truth. I had to learn to read. I was writing procedural manuals, and all that kind of stuff, memos to the federal government, to captains and, big shots. You had to be perfect. And I could not get that way of writing out of my brain. It took a really long time.
So you said you've always written, and I think I mentioned in the written interview, we talked about remembering your first book that made you want to read more and write more, and you received a book in a stocking for Christmas that you devoured, and then your brothers, and then the library. So from that point on, were you always a reader?
Always. Even when my babies were little, I could nap time instead of because I had these last 2 babies so close in age, it was it was a challenge to stay awake most days because they got me up early. And, when my husband used to say, when you put them down for a nap, shut your eyes a few minutes. But no, I grabbed a book. And, I grabbed the book, and I had a lot of support because both my parents were readers. So I would join, I don't know if you remember this, the Doubleday Book Club, where you start it and you get 12 books for 99 cents. And then you have to, promise to buy 3 more in a year or 2 years or whatever. I used to join them. Once I satisfied my membership, I'd rejoin again. And my dad and I would share books.
We actually did something very similar, and we kind of had our own library. My dad would go to, flea markets, yes, auctions, and buy cases of books. So that that was great. Open up a whole case of books, new and old. I loved it. Did you have any genre, anything specific you liked reading?
I liked mysteries. I like suspense. I'm a huge fan. I like Dan Brown. I like James Patterson. But then again, I also love Nora Roberts and Brenda Novak and all the romance writers. So I like a lot. I don't like to be scared. I cannot read Stephen King. But that just tells me how good he is, because if I get so scared in the first chapter that I can't go any further, that's an awesome writer.
I have only read one book by him, and that's probably for the same reason, although I can watch the movies, but I did read The Stand.
I can't do that anymore. I can't even watch the movies anymore. I can't even hear the music, the scary, she's going to go in the basement kind of music. I can't.
He lives a half hour from where I live, so he's kind of like a famous person up here,
Yeah,
obviously.
that's
Uh,
really
so
cool.
I remember sharing books with my parents too. I
Mhm.
remember reading that first Hallmark that I didn't have permission to read yet, but I kind of snuck in. Hallmarks were not as steamy as books are
No.
today, so it's not that big a deal. But growing up loving reading. So you said you went to the library and you would take out the maximum number of books. Did you always stick with that, like the mysteries and then the romance, or did you
Well, when I
read
was
branch
younger, it
out?
was just more like young adult books. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would just, whatever intrigued me, I would come out with stacks. And I'd have to walk a good 12 blocks home to with these heavy books. And I never thought to bring a bag. I'm just walking down the street holding these books. And within like a week, I'd have them read and I'd be right back. And my mother at all this time thought my aunt was taking me. She
Oh,
didn't know I was sneaking myself
all the way to the library.
all the way to the
That's
library.
pretty much devotion to
Yep.
books. So what was there always a desire to write in your mind, or did something inspire you to say, I want to do this too? I want to create these.
It started, I can't remember. I know if I got like emotional, I would write a poem or song lyrics. And I know you quoted my quote. I love love. And even as a teenager, I knew who my husband would be in my mind. Of course, you're what you dream of as a little girl is never really what happens. But so I can't even remember what inspired me to write. I know my mother one time we had this little mobile home down by the Jersey Shore, and we would go for the summers, and my dad would go back to Philadelphia and he would go to work and he would come on the weekends. Well, during storms, being in this 12-foot by 60-foot mobile home, storms sounded so much more intense. So we would all gather in the living room with blankets and our pillows, and we'd all cuddle together because the whole house would shake. So my mother started this telling stories thing. Okay, whose turn is it to tell a story? And all until one of us fell asleep, we would just continue to tell stories that we made up. And my mother said to me, "You should really be a writer." She said, "I love when it's your turn. You tell really good stories." So
Nice.
I always kind of wanted to be it, but then life takes over. You go to high school and you think you want something different. And I followed that path for quite a while. And it wasn't until I guess my kids were little that I had a computer at that point, and I just started to write Forgotten Identity. It had a totally different name. The character's name was different. But then my parents got sick and I moved them in with me. And now I had, three kids, at the time, three dogs, and two parents to care for. Plus, I was still working. I was working full time from home.
Oh,
So there
wow.
was no time for writing. And I would jot down notes. And even now and again, I find notes. But the most amazing moment was stuff I forgot about. When I was packing up to move out of New Jersey, in my office in that house, it was part office, part craft room. And my husband had the wall, a big table, and under that was all my parents' stuff that I could not bring myself to go through. But now I had to because I was moving house. So I take this one box and I empty it out and I have a pile what I'm going to keep and a pile what I'm going to get rid of. And in the bottom, I tried to toss this box out in the hallway where my husband was going to break it down and put it in the recycles. I see this familiar color. It was like a green marble, light green. And I pull it out and it was a legal size folder. And I remembered it from my youth. Inside was everything I'd written that my mother had saved.
Oh, wow.
And I look at the stuff now and I could see my little girly script. And I look, did I really write that? I had a copy of that. There's no way I wrote that because some of it was really good for a 12-year-old. So
In
I was
other words, you were just a
surprised.
writer at 12.
Yeah, I was surprised that I wrote it. I'm still not on this. And I put my age and I wrote like age 12. So I'm thinking that I wrote it because my mother would never let me plagiarize something or wish she wouldn't see
Right.
if I plagiarized something. So I'm pretty sure I wrote the poems, but parts of short stories were there that I didn't finish. But yeah, I
So
guess like maybe I was just born to write and I just took a different path for a while.
and I think that's true of a lot of people. I mean, it's something in like the social work field. What would you rather do? I'd rather be sitting on a beach writing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, because it's Well, it seems to have to be at the right time in life for some reason. Excuse me. Uh, so when you started writing, did you take any of those ideas or and produce more on that idea for a book, or did new characters pop in your head and say, "All right, this is the story you're telling today"?
It's all new. It just The funniest thing was when I finished Forgotten Identity, it was a little bit more, I would say it wasn't a full-fledged manuscript at that point because I had to learn all about the showing and the telling and, kind of stuff like that. But when I went, Angela's story came to me in a dream. And a friend told me, a writer friend who's pretty popular, she told me it wasn't really a dream. That was your creative mind opening up and your characters will speak to you. And I'll never forget the day before I started work. I worked from home. I opened up my personal computer just to check out a story, and I'm like in a full blown panic because I'm hearing voices in my head. So I'm thinking, oh my God, am I mentally ill? Did the loss of my parents really affect me so greatly
Mm.
that I lost my mind? So I quickly called. I knew she was up it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I knew she was up like me because she's like me. She used to sit with her tea. I'd have coffee and she would read before she went into her office because she's a full-time writer. And I called her and I said, Jean, I have a problem. And she starts to laugh. And I said, why are you laughing? I didn't even tell you what's going on. I said, I think I'm losing my mind. And now she really chuckles. And I said, well, is that funny? She said, your character's talking to you. I went, oh my God, yes. How did you know? She said, that's a great thing. That's a great thing. You want your characters to talk to you. But
That is
sometimes they don't shut up though.
that would make it difficult to sleep or cook supper, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool. And I've
I'm
heard
sorry.
that from a lot of people.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
One time my husband asked me a question and I turned around like really quickly and I shot him he said I shot him a look and he said your voice wasn't kind of like your own. He said, are you talking to your characters or something? I went, that's exactly where I was.
I went to the Fall in Love New England conference in Massachusetts last year. The first time, I'm an avid reader. I don't remember my first book, obviously. I love reading. I love literature. I love creative writing, but I've never gone to a book signing, and I jump right in full foot with a 2-day convention. And one of the workshops was called The Voices in My Head. Now, I was a crisis worker. I had to go to that workshop. Um, and it's interesting because then when in Winter Games, which you're a part of, to be able to meet all these new authors and read their books, one of the authors had posted a little game question: how many voices do you have in your head? And I'm like, you got to read the crowd. I'm talking to authors. They have all these voices. If I
Mhm.
say I got 3 or 4, that's another issue because I'm not a, well, everyone always asks, well, are you a writer? Well, I write a lot. I am not an author. I truly admire you all because fact of the matter is I'm learning more and more, and how much it takes. Writing a book is the quote unquote easy part. Fitting it within parameters and editing and publishing, it then becomes, how do you keep it so, or does it not bother you? How do you keep it so that that's enjoyable? Because writing the story, I imagine, is fun. The characters that are talking to you go down on paper, and there may be pauses or this or that, but how do
Um,
you retain that joy through the process of editing and publishing?
because I know at the end of the line, once I get my cover, it's like I birthed a baby. It's exciting. It's like, I can't believe this is my life right now. I can't believe I'm doing what I always wanted to do. And it was really funny because I was actually in Philly when my boss called me back to work after COVID. So it was not this past October, the October before.
Right.
And I was there, and one of my girlfriends from work gave me a heads up that our boss is calling me back this weekend. So she said, he asked me for your cell phone number, and I said, sure, give it to him. So I was excited to get back to work, and then I called my husband and I said, I'm getting a call back to work this weekend, and he said, I really don't want you to go back to work because he was already retired about 4 years. He said, why don't you just retire and do what you love? Write, just write. I said, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I love my job. I love my paycheck even more. But it was a very high pressure job. I was never off the clock because when you work from home, they know they can get you on a Sunday during Sunday dinner. Easter,
Right.
they can get you if there's an urgency somewhere in their minds. They create these urgencies. They weren't urgent in my mind on Easter Sunday or Christmas Day. So I thought about it, and now I'm with 3 other women. We shared a room, and they're saying he calls me because I had said to my one friend Terry, I said if he calls when we're on the road behind my seat's a notebook and a pen, because when I used to travel, I live in Delaware now. When I used to travel from New Jersey to Delaware, and my husband drove, I'd sit in the back seat with the pups, and I'd write in my little notebook.
Right.
There's a notebook back there, and there's a bunch of pens. Just take notes because it'll come through the radio because I have the GPS in. I said, it'll come through the radio. And I was kind of grateful that he didn't. But the minute we checked in our room, the phone rang and came up my boss's name. And I went, oh, I said, girls, this is the call. So I'm kind of like hemming and hawing. And I said, well, look, David, I said, my life took a great turn. I said, we've been out of work for 2 years. I think I'm going to retire. I said, I think I'm going to retire and devote myself to my writing, because they're going, no, no work, no work. And I just made the decision. And for the first 6 months, I regretted it a lot. But now I can't imagine dealing with all that drama when I have this to look forward to.
Nice. I like to hear people's dreams come true at a good point in life and stuff. That's See, there's my stutter. Lost my train of thought. There was something very specific. Oh my gracious. Okay, so the characters have come to you in dreams. When you are writing, I know what I was going to say. So when you're writing, I know from chatting with you that you set aside specific, like Monday to Friday or Tuesday to Friday, depending on the time of the year. But you kind of touched on that. When you're, say you do go on a vacation, if a character starts talking to you, do you have to then just jot it down or voice record it? Or can you wait till you get home on your phone?
Because it's always on me. And I wear a lot of those leggings with the side pockets.
Yeah.
The leggings. Well, I don't work out because I'm allergic to exercise, but I like the leggings. So I'll have my phone in my pocket 90% of the time. And if I see, it's crazy because I live in a shore resort, which I'm so blessed. I love the water. I love the beach. There's a lot of new developments coming up, and they have these crazy names. And I said, oh my God, that's a great small town. I jot it down. A street name, a great small town name. I jot it down. I see somebody, I watch people, which probably freaks people out, but I'm a people watcher. And I'll look at a woman or a couple and I'll go, what's their story? I know their story. I'm going to make their story up. I'm going to tell their story. Same if I hear a name that's really unique. I jot it. Yeah. I have a whole notebook, a whole folder with names, town names, even song titles that I think would work with the story, so I can put a playlist at the end of the book. Now, I haven't done it for Wanderlust or any of the others, but the letter does have a playlist in the back.
Oh, we will be looking forward to that. And that's funny because when my daughter was little, we traveled a lot through certain ages and stuff. But one of our favorite games was, what is that person's story? Looking at people sitting at doctor's offices, anywhere you could do it quietly without people knowing you're talking about them, because you don't want to freak them out. That's interesting. And I think from all the authors I talk with, y'all do just pull stuff in from around you. Now, do you ever base characters on someone you know, or just pieces of characters?
Drew in the letter was somebody I knew.
Okay.
My husband might watch this. Sorry, honey.
Well, whoever that person is, I will be happy to say that he's very well portrayed in the book. The character is amazing.
My worry was that he was going to come off wimpy. So that's
I haven't finished yet, but so far not. And for anyone that's listening, I'm doing a preview copy. The letter will be coming out at the end of this month. I will be posting the cover reveal for Saw later this afternoon. And that is your newest one. Do you want to say a little about it?
Yeah. So I have to say it's hard to have a favorite. My favorite characters are the ones I'm working on right at that moment. So since they're so fresh in my mind, Angela, I wanted her to come off strong but sweet. Drew, I wanted him to be sweet, but I also wanted him to be a man. Like, I didn't want him to be one of these wimpy, oh my gosh, I need her. Oh, hi, puppy. I
This is
wanted,
Breezy.
I wanted him to have some strength in the whole thing, but I wanted to show his utter devotion to her. Like it was just a love at first sight kind of thing. And, for non-believers, it really happened for them.
I
And of
liked
course,
that
I have to
twist.
introduce the nasty in
Breezy.
there with the stalker.
Sorry, her dad is outside, so
That's
she's
okay.
being
I have
needy.
puppies. I'm just up here because Lily would be sitting on this shoulder. And then she sticks her.
Lily's my daughter's name. Okay, so, all right, Breezy. So back to yeah, and like I mean, right at the very beginning, I like this is not a giveaway or a spoiler. I liked that we don't believe in love at first sight, but this is what happened.
Mhm.
That's yeah, I like that. And I everything else I want to say is spoilers, so I'll
Yeah.
wait until after it's come out and I can talk about it
But I'm
after people have read
going
it.
to tell you March 27th.
March 27th, yes. And I did not read a blurb or anything about the letter prior to you sending it. So I have to tell the viewers, I love the fact that I didn't know what was going on because, there's so many different I love all genres of books except for as you I can no longer read horror or watch horror that I used to love, but I love romance. And a lot of romance is fairly predictable, unless it's going to be a mystery or suspense, which I didn't know what was going to happen. And I love the fact that I did not know because it's rare that I'm completely surprised by a book. And right now I am.
Oh,
Um, and I'm not even that far into it. And I keep telling people if everyone would let me just read, don't want to clean, don't want to go grocery shop, don't want to cook supper, but I have to fit it around that stuff to make
yep.
the family happy. So when this is not something I've asked an author before, but it just popped into my head because, like you said, your favorite characters are the ones you're writing and they're living in your head. Are other characters quiet while you're doing that? Or while you're working on something, do other characters say, yeah, no, I want a book too?
Yes. So sometimes what happens with me, if I'm editing and I'm getting a little bored, I start hearing the voices. Hello, you started my story. What's happening here? I'm frozen in the kitchen. Like, so then I go, I'll bam, and I feel like, do I have ADD? Is this what's going on? Like, why can't I? If I'm getting bored now with these edits, but edits aren't fun. They're
Right.
they're just a means to the end, and I try to put the cleanest copy I could to my editor first. So I go through like a round of AI edits. And then when I've gone through Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid, then I have Microsoft Word read me the book. And
Okay.
surprisingly, you catch a lot. So once it's as clean as I think I could make it, because let's face it, I'm been out of high school a long time. I forget the grammar rules. I do.
And they've
And
changed.
everything has changed. There's words I never even, I'm Googling more grammar issues than I'm Googling scenarios or things to, that are, because even though it's fiction, I want it to be close to real life as possible. So if I'm looking up a prison sentence for a certain crime, I want to know what it is in that state or wherever
So
that,
you Google research the
right. I
topics for
do all
that
the research. I
area.
want to make it as accurate as possible.
And I think that's helpful, especially since, first of all, you don't know who's reading it, and they might work in the field. And if you haven't researched it, there's a
Right.
glaring error. If you could, so most people can't just travel everywhere to research all their settings. If you could travel somewhere for a setting for a new book, where in the world would you like to go?
Well, there's two places that stand out. And one I've mentioned before on the rave was Tuscany. The second one is Australia, Bondi Beach, because I do have a
Oh,
story that takes place there. So it requires a lot of research, looking at pictures. And I do have a story that's a little bit more than a outline, but not quite the full length. It needs work because when I get an idea, I have to stop because I'm afraid that I'm going to lose it. So I quickly go open up a new document. Sometimes I don't even have a title and I'll just name it like, okay, the character today is Sally. I'm going to just name the book Sally right now. And I
right.
just put what she's telling me out there.
So
And
you
then
don't get breaks between writing books because they're constantly going in your head and you've
constantly
already
going, I
got the
don't get a
next one.
break. I do force myself after a book is released. I force myself to at least take a week. I shoot for 2, but I force myself to take a week If I can, I take the two. In the summer, it's hard. I'm sorry. In the summer, it's easier because I can go out on the beach. I can go by the water.
Right.
My husband has a pontoon. We can get on the pontoon. But that doesn't mean the notebook's not far from me. I have a backpack that my best friend bought me. It has all mermaids all over it. It's waterproof. I throw my
That's
notebooks in there. I always have a little cosmetic bag full of pens. And I'll sit under the bimini and I'll just write, take notes. Story ideas come to me. So a lot of them take place down here because it's
yeah.
probably one of my favorite places. And it's you can just like look out a window, not my window because I'm not on the water, but when I go to my girlfriend's, I have to turn. She's a block from the beach. And I'll turn up her street and I'll say, oh, I got a story. And she's a wonderful photographer. So I steal some of her pictures for book covers.
Oh, that's great. Oh, photography. So that Wanderlust, we got the beach and the photographer and all of
Mm-hmm.
it. And Wanderlust made me want to go take a vacation at the beach
Yep.
and hug the main character because he needed it at points.
Yes. Yes.
um,
He was
and
totally
so if
out
I
of his
haven't
element.
mentioned already, I adored Wanderlust. Everyone should read it. Um,
Thank you.
I loved the humor bits in it because if you can make me laugh out loud, literally, and cry, you've done your job. Oh, there's a good segue. What do you hope readers get out of reading your books? Some want them to just be entertained, feelings. What do you hope readers get out of your books?
I hope they get to escape their life. Not everybody has a good
Mm,
life. If they have something on their mind, I hope that it takes them off of whatever they're worried about and brings them into this magical place because I don't live in any of these places that I
yeah,
write in my books. I don't have,
right.
and so I hope that they see what I see. Like even with Natalia, she was middle class. She
Yeah.
had a regular house. She went on a trip and you know what happened. So I don't want to give it away, but that story came to me. I'm a volunteer for Pug Rescue. I have been for the last 2 decades, but I was real new at it. And they were hosting this big fundraiser in Connecticut. And I was living in New Jersey. So I packed my best friend up who just adopted one of my foster dogs, one of my 3 pugs, and my 2 little boys. My oldest was at his father's at the time for like his week vacation. So I packed everybody up, go in the mom van, and we head up to Connecticut. And the next day, we're at this fundraiser in a park. And I'm just sitting on a picnic table, looking at all the moms, all the children, all the little puppies. And I thought, what would happen? Some of them traveled down from Maine. Other people traveled like from me, from New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And I'm thinking, what would happen if one of these women disappeared? We're all middle class. We can't hire private detectives or
Right.
the police are they really going to care because we're not like some wealthy person that disappeared? So I thought, what would happen? And that's how that story was born.
Built
And it
on
was
that.
supposed to be one and done, but then Songbird started to talk to me in my head. And I thought, well, we got to take it there then.
And I think that's the thing, as we touched on earlier, and people do all the time in the book groups and stuff, that difference between a writer and an author. You're only an author because you have readers. And I think as a reader, I want exactly what you said. I want to be able to escape. Well, for all these genres of books, if I'm reading a biography, I probably want to learn something.
Right.
But for all the fiction books, I want to escape. I want to be able to picture that other place, someone else's life, entertained. And I like it when I get the feels. And that can be fear, sadness, happiness, giggly,
Right.
and just want to keep coming back for more. If the book ends and it's got a good ending, so I'm happy with that ending, but I still want to know more about their life, even though I know I'm not going to, that's a successful book because they almost become like family for that few hours. As their
Exactly. They
family
do.
and friends in your head, when I'm reading it, that's what they are, family and friends. Also, the little personal touches that I get to learn. Like I have to go look things up. I'll hear a term that I'm like, I don't know what that is, and I'll go look it up, and then I'm off on a tangent. I'd make a good researcher for a writer, I
Oh,
think.
yeah, that's
Not the
interesting.
writer themselves, but a researcher. And then I get to learn even more. So it's an ongoing experience as a reader. As an introvert, when you're, and this may be too personal, you can say I'm not answering it. As an introvert at book signings, are you excited to meet the readers because you're in your element, you have your books and stuff, or does it, how do you feel about it?
It's 50-50. So in the
Yeah.
very beginning, like the day before I get there, I'm highly upset. I'm highly, not, I want to say upset. I'm highly geared up. Like I'm ready to go. And then when it's that time to set up your table and the little things upset me, like, oh, this my tablecloth fell out of the bag in the back of the car and it got all wrinkled. So I'm running up the stairs to get an iron and the iron didn't work. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my table's a mess. And I only had the 3 books. That was probably my most high anxiety one. That was Romanticon last year because everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. But once people started to come in, they start talking to you, you ease up. You feel like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is
Yeah.
my life now. I have to step out. I have to smile more. But my favorite signings are usually at the bookstore in Rehoboth Beach. I get invited. So far, it's been 4 times a year, which is exciting because the organizer says, this is unheard of. She said, but I always ask for you first. Usually I give a local author 1 signing. I've had 4 already, and I'm going in April again. She said
Very
everybody
nice.
talks about how funny you are and how social you are, and you greet everybody coming in, whether they're in for the bookstore. It's half of a bookstore and half of a really unique gift shop. So, and they always set me up at the gift shop by the coffee bar. So, somebody comes in, I greet them, whether they're my customer or not. I greet them. I'm not going to sit there and just stare them down. And they said they love that about me, and they get comments, that, oh, that lady's so sweet. She's in, she welcomes us to the store.
And I've seen some of the pictures, the smile. If you've got a smile on, it puts people at ease. And every one of your pictures at the book signings and stuff, you're always smiling.
Well, I'm happy. I love being there.
I definitely am looking forward to hoping it works out for both of us so I can meet you at the film in the fall.
Yeah, I'm on the list.
I'm planning on going. As you said, life gets life.
Messy.
But so I want to circle back around to remind everyone the Haunted Heart series. I said that right, correct? Yes, the Haunted Heart series. And starting with Forgotten Identity, Wanderlust, and pretty soon we have The Letter coming out March 27th, which I will remind people. I've got a couple days that I will be reminding people of all the upcoming events. I think that's probably about all the time we have for today, but I am so happy you agreed to join me and getting to know you better. All these authors, not all these authors, the authors that I've been getting to know by email and text and messaging, then I get to see y'all in person, and all right, a little bit of a fangirl thing goes on. I get very excited by this, and I'm learning so much from all of you. Anything you want to add before we end?
No, thank you for everything that you do for us. We all appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me for this interview. It was really nice.
It was fun, and we'll have to plan another one when you have another release coming up.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a great afternoon, Lucia.
Thanks.
And I will talk to you again sometime soon, hopefully. All right.
Good.
Bye.
Thank you.